everybody, this is Melinda with Liberty Jane. Today I'm going to show you how to construct the 2015 So Powerful purse. As you may know, one of the things we're passionate about here at Liberty Jane is how sewing and tailoring can help combat poverty and empower women to live better lives. One of the super cool ways that we help make this happen is by our annual purse project, which you can find out all about on sopowerful.org. The basic gist of this project is that women all over the world, just like you, make purses from our patterns and then send them in to a central collection site. From there, the purses are shipped out to Zambia, Africa, where they are filled with feminine hygiene supplies and given to girls in need. The story behind the feminine hygiene products is a pretty cool one too, but go ahead and check that one out on the website, sopowerful.org. But for now, let's go ahead and get started making one of these little beauties. We have two flap options for you. This is option A with a flap and a single pocket here. And option B, which has a snapped ribbon tab with a decorative button and a single elasticized pocket. Both purses have a spacious main compartment as well as an additional little front pocket. If you want to do the option A look for the front of your purse, you're going to need to cut out pieces 1 through 5. Option B is also super cute, so if you decide to go this route, cut out pieces 12 through 17 and don't cut out 1 through 5. Regardless of which flap you decide to make, you'll need to cut out pieces 6 through 11 for both purses. Just as a quick note, because pieces 8 and 11 are both giant rectangles, we didn't give you actual pattern pieces, just dimensions, so don't forget to cut those out. Let's start with option A. The first step is to take piece number 1, your front pocket flap, and sew the two flaps together with their right sides touching. Trim your seam allowances and turn the flap right side out. Then press and edge stitch. You can also add trim to the flap right now if you want. Set your completed flap aside and move to piece number 2, the front flap pocket. You should have one of fabric and one of lining, and you're just going to sew them together along the top edge. Press your seam open and then press it so that the seam is just right here along the edge. Then you can sew it 3/8 of an inch to make a casing. Baste the two pieces together around the curved edges and then fold the pleat in the bottom by folding along the markings and then bringing them to the center line. Cut a piece of elastic 7 3/4 inches long and then thread it through that top casing, being sure to secure it at both ends. Next, go ahead and grab piece number 3, the purse flap A piece, and what you're going to do is lay your completed pocket on top of this piece and line up the raw edges. As you're pinning, just go ahead and check that you have 5/8 of an inch above the top edge of the pocket showing. So here are the two layers basted together, and the next thing is just to grab your top flap, line it up with this upper raw edge, and baste it down as well. As you're basting your flap down, you do want to make sure that you have 1/4 inch extending on each side. So at this point what we have is a flap and a pocket on a base, and now what we're going to do is take piece number 4 and add that one to the mix. So here's piece number 4, and you'll notice that the one edge here along the bottom is slightly longer than the edge at the top. And what you want to do is take this longer edge, match it up to the pocket you just finished, right sides together, and sew them down. This piece that we just added is what's going to give the flap the length that it needs to go around the back of the purse and over the front. A fun thing you can do at this point is take piece number 5, your flap lining, and line it up with the pocket you made and see that they are indeed the same size. Sew your flap and your flap lining together along the outside edges, not along this short upper edge. Trim your seam as you need to and then turn it right side out. Finish up your pocket flap by edge stitching. I like to break my stitching around the flap so that it doesn't get sewed shut. If you're doing option B, then your first step is actually going to be to take pieces number 12 and 13 and sew them together along the top edge. Press the seam open and then fold it over so that the raw edges line up and you can see the lining along the top edge. Press this fold into place. It should be about 3/8 of an inch wide, and then you can stitch in the ditch to make a casing. This is one of the things I really love about this option is that you get this pop of color with the lining showing along the top edge of what will become sort of the center pocket on your flap. This is one of the things I really love about this option. You get this little pop of the lining color in what will become the center pocket on your flap. Baste the outside raw edges together, form the pleat and baste it into place, and then put a 3 3/4 inch piece of elastic through the casing at the top. So now that your front pocket is complete, get piece number 14 out. This is your front center under pocket. That's a very long name, which just means you want to stack your pocket on top of it, lining up raw edges around the bottom, and then the top of the pocket should line up with the notch in your fabric. Once you have your center pocket basted to your front center under pocket, you can take piece number 15 and sew one to each side. Fold your 4-inch piece of ribbon in half and then baste it into position. Then take piece number 16, that's your front flap, and sew it to your completed pocket along this edge. Press the seam up towards the top of the flap and then top stitch it into place. Pin and sew the lining to your completed flap around all the edges except for the top one. Clip into your seam allowance as needed before you flip your purse and flap lining right side out and edge stitch. At this point, you can go ahead and sew on your decorative button and then sew a snap to the underside of your tab and to the top of your pocket. So here, for comparison purposes, we have the two different flaps completed. We have option A here on the left with the little secondary flap and the full width elasticized pocket. And then this is option B again with the ribbon tab that will snap to the pocket, and there's only one pocket bit, this tiny elasticized section. The rest of the purse construction steps are identical. You'll just use whichever flap you made. All right, let's make the body of this purse. You'll want one of piece number 6, the purse front and back, and then you're just going to take your flap and center it along this upper edge. Then grab one of your piece number 7s, your purse top, front, and back, lay it over this edge, right side in, and just stitch through all the layers. Open this seam up, press it towards the purse back, so this way, and then edge stitch here to hold it all down. All right, grab your remaining piece number 6s and piece number 7, and what you're going to do is actually create the final pocket of your purse. You'll want to sew piece 7 to 6 along this upper edge. Just make sure you're sewing a fashion fabric to a lining fabric. And then sew your remaining sets of purse fronts to each other, right sides together, along the top edge. Edge stitch both of your pieces. On this one, I've just pressed the seam down towards the pocket bag and edge stitched on the lining side. And then on this one, I've edge stitched along the top. Now, as you probably guessed by now, what we're going to do is make a pocket by stacking these two layers. You want to line up this edge so that it just covers your seam on the under layer. Go ahead and pin the two layers together. It's okay if you have some extra sticking out here at the bottom. It's actually more important that you cover up this seam with the top edge of the pocket. So here's your completed purse front, and here's this extra little pocket formed with the lining fabric. What you're going to do is fold it in half and mark the center. You can either do this by trimming out a small amount of fabric to make a notch, or by using a pin. Pick up the piece that you cut to be your side. This is piece number 8. Fold it in half as well, and then mark the center on each side. You'll also need to make little notches in the middle at each short end. Pre-notching the strip takes a little extra work, but it'll totally be worth it when it comes time to line things up. Turn your purse front so that the bottom is facing up. That's at least how I like to do it. And then grab your side piece, right sides together, match up the center, and start pinning it into position. I usually like to pin out a little bit, then go straight to the top edge and pin this in for a bit, and then work my way into the corner. When you get to the corner, you do have the classic problem of straight edge meeting a curved edge, so to make it go a little bit easier, you can cut slits into the straight edge. Just keep your little slashes to 1/4 inch or a little bit shallower, that way you won't have holes in your finished purse. Once you have the side panel sewn to the front, grab your back piece, the flap should still be attached to this, and mark the center of that as well. Then line up the center of the purse side with the center of the purse back, pin them together like you did for the front, and stitch. Turn the bag right side out, and then set it aside. To make the bag's lining, take pieces number 9 and 10 and sew them together along the top edge. You'll need to make 2 of these units. Press the seam down towards the lining, and if you'd like, you can top stitch it. Then stack the 2 pieces right sides together and pin them along the sides and lower edge. Sew your 2 pieces together, but do break your stitching at the large circles that are noted on the pattern. This is so that you'll be able to flip the purse right side out when you're done. Open up your lining, and then grab your purse and stuff the purse down into the lining. As you go, tuck the flap down into the lining, and just make sure that you're matching up the raw edges of the lining with the raw edges of the purse. Also make sure that you're matching up the seams you just sewed on the lining with that little notch you made at the center of the purse side panel. This whole step is kind of a weird operation, so just take your time and make sure that you're sewing just the top of the purse to the top of the lining and nothing else. Sew the entire way around this upper edge, and then find the hole in the bottom. Your flap may have already started to poke out, and flip the purse right side out through that hole. Fold under the raw edges in this hole in the lining and pin them together. Then just seal up the opening with a nice little edge stitch and stuff the lining down into the purse. Press the top edge of the purse. I like to finger press it first a little bit, kind of roll it so that the seam is all the way out. And then if you want, you can top stitch or edge stitch it. Sew the purse straps together by stitching a short piece to each end of each long piece, and then edge stitching the seam allowances down. Then lay the two straps right sides together on top of each other and stitch along one long edge. Press the seam open and then press both long raw edges under 1/4 inch. Fold the strip in half and then pin it down. Top stitch both edges of the strap to finish it. Pin and sew the strap to the side of the purse body 1/2 inch down from the finished edge. Then fold it up and stitch a little X for stability. Congratulations! You've just finished a 2015 Sew Powerful purse. On behalf of Liberty Jane, I just want to say thank you so much for using your sewing skills to bless young women in Zambia.